Hello and welcome back YouTube. Today we're going to take a look at Volte to toe compass, and I think it's about one of the easiest tricks to get into when you want to start to weave at least pivots together. You have the whole wizard lion and X thing. That's something different entirely. This is heavily inspired by slalom and then wizardified by my lack of skill, you could say. So and for everybody to actually be interested in this video, I'm also going to include a harder combo that requires you to do some switch in the end, and you saw that in the intro. So if you got this technique down, well, try and go and do it switch. That way everybody can benefit from this video, right? So yeah, for this trick we're going to know how to do a volte, and we're also going to need to do a toe compass. If you got these down and you know how to just spin them in a circle instead of the more directional approach, we're also going to take a look at that, so don't worry. I'm going to timestamp the beginner trick, or sorry, the intermediate trick, or for the more advanced riders out there. So you can skip this part if you already know how to correct your tricks into going straight instead of just a circle and all of the transition stuff. Okay, so let's break it down. Okay, so as for correcting that circular motion into a straight line, it is sort of as simple as it seems, that you just straighten your foot out again and then you're going straight. But we want to do it fluidly. We just don't want to do, you know, some sort of pivot and then jump and then up. Now we're straight again. What we're going to try and do is actually incorporate a little free turn with our outer foot. So for a volte, it's the heel that's pushing the direction. So you want the pivot leg to always be the one deciding where you're going, at least for this combo. So yeah, don't pay too much attention to that. We're going to look at some other stuff later where you can actually go with the outer foot. But for this position, it is the pivoting leg that actually decides where you're going. So let's say I'm starting off going fakie, doing my volte. The moment my volte leg, or the pivoting leg, is facing sort of straight, I want to incorporate a turn. So there's really not more to it than that. It takes some practice to do it. You know, you can kind of start off fakie and then try and get that whole motion down. That's the technique for the volte. And for the toe compass, well, it's basically the same. You're just trying to do the opposite direction, right? And I find it also that the toe compass usually clicks more with people to pop into that position where you want to be. So maybe spend the majority of your time practicing on the volte. The toe compass will come pretty much by itself once we look at the transition we're going to use today. Okay, so that was a little short bit on how you actually correct a spinning circle. So let me demonstrate. So volte and pivot foot, right? Now let's do the toe compass. Toe compass, pivot your foot. That's about it. Practice that, get good at it so you can go in a nice and straight line. And then we'll look at how we can spin into the other trick. Okay, so let's look at transitions. Okay, so for the transition, we want to know how to eagle. Eagle is going to give us the ability to keep on rotating without it looking clunky. So, you know, if I was to jump and do a 180 and I want to end up with another 180 at it, it could look like this, right? That ended up looking a bit clunky, but that's just my balance, that's not on point. But we want to use this same exact idea of transition fluently into another trick, right? So we already know from the Volte that we will start off the trick by going fakie. Well, I start off the sequence by going straight forwards. So we could ride out, do an eagle until we are ending up fakie. That's the first part of the trick, basically. How do you start your Volte? Well, you end up eagling it, and then you already have your fluent entry into the spin. So that's the first transition we're going to use. What we're also going to utilize is a switch of which foot is the farthest behind. Because if you pay attention to the pivoting leg, that's the leg that's sticking out the most in the behind. So that's kind of like your steering wheel, like in your car. And that is also something that you need to have this position while you keep doing your tricks and your combos. So we could already now start to incorporate a eagle turn, but also from that eagle turn, a switch where maybe it's my left foot that's being backwards, but switching it up so that it's my right leg. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn into the right. Meanwhile I'm turning, I'm switching that position. So I'll give you a side look because I think it's more obvious. Eagle, switch position. That's basically the transition we're going to use in the start and to combine our Volte to the toe compass. So I know that's a lot of talk about transitions, but let's take a step down look on how we do it. Okay, so step one. Okay, so now we've got the whole spiel down about how you're going to do this transition. Now we want to practice the transition by itself. So for starters, what you want to try and accomplish is just going straight forwards, doing an eagle, and then switching your foot position. Okay? So eagle to fakie, and I'm going to pivot on my right leg, so I'm pushing that one behind. I'm going to give you a side view of that. So straight forwards, eagle, and push my right leg in the back. So once you have this motion down, try and practice it so it'll come like second nature to kick that leg out before you start doing anything else. So that's basically only step one. Forwards, eagle, switch your foot. Forwards, eagle, switch your foot. Okay, so that's step one. Okay, now you've gotten that whole eagle step switching transition down. And step two is really simple because you already know how to do a Volte. So now it's just a matter of trying to add the Volte to your spin. Okay, it's fine if you go in a circle to start off until you get the whole motion down like one fluent trick. So when I end up fakie from that switching position and you're already kicking your leg back, well, let your upper body follow. Use your hips to start that rotation of the Volte, and then your body will follow. And it'll look a little bit like this, sorry. Okay, so let's do a side view. And that's it for step two. Then we're going to look at step three. Okay, so step number 3 is basically just learning how to repeat what you've done with a transition into your pivot, ending up straight now, and then adding the transition again. So we're going to do the complete same thing we were doing in the beginning. Now we're just trying to add it at the end of the trick as well. So we know the transition, eagle, switch our foot position, volte, then do it again, eagle, and switch the foot position. Okay, so let me give you a side view of that as well. So that's basically it for step 3. And the keen among you will see that I'm basically just doing the same thing. And yes, that means you can actually continue doing a volte a little bit like this, just using the transition trick transition. Whoop, got a little squirrely there, but yeah, so bonus trick, maybe. Step 4. Okay, 4th and final step for this trick is that we're going to add the toe compass. Now, adding the toe compass might be where it feels like your flow is interrupted a bit, because now you're not just only continuing clockwise, in my case, now you're going to do that transition and go counterclockwise. And that whole motion of physics needs some time to take place. So you will feel like you are spinning and then stopping, and then it's coming around. And that's how it's supposed to be. You can't just switch direction as fast as you are going in the same direction. There needs to be some time for that momentum to dissipate. But one trick to make it a bit faster is that when you observe a toe compass, you will see that you need to pivot your foot outwards, like almost laying your foot down a bit more than you would a volte. Now, that can act as both your steering wheel to make it come around quicker, but it can actually also be used as kind of like a reach, hook, and swing. So we need to learn this reach, hook, swing motion. And that reach, hook, swing motion is gonna come from your transition you learned in step 1. So when I go to, I'm gonna do it this way. When I'm going into eagle and pushing my foot out, I'm going to stretch out just ever so slightly more now. And then I'm going to hook it by placing my foot down and then leaning back into it and let my spinning foot come around. So if we just do a transition to the grapevine, the toe compass, it'll look like this. Okay, I'm trying to make it a bit more obvious that it might be in a full speed combo, but you can see I'm really reaching out with that foot, laying it down, and then letting myself turn around. That's actually the final step. You can do this where you practice the transition into the toe compass a bit so you feel safe. And when you're done, well, then it should look a little bit like this. And that's how you do Volte to toe compass. So again, as I said, I know I talk a lot. Usually, I'm good at that. But for the ones of you who want a challenge, try and do this whole exercise the opposite direction. So instead of spinning clockwise, now you're spinning anti-clockwise. You're also going to do your volte on your switch foot. You're also going to do your toe compass on the switch foot. I can give it a try. I'm not going to promise that it's pretty, but let me just think it through. Yeah. Okay, so there's some cleaning up and stuff to do for me, but try that if you want a challenge and you think this is child's play. If you want another challenge, you could also just take that last transition from grapevine and then edit switch. So we're going to do volte, our normal direction. We're going to do grapevine, our normal direction, switching it up. So we are then going to do toe compass, our switch direction. Then it'll look like this. So again, the last part will actually start to look a little bit like a crazy. And that's because how you do a crazy. So yeah, challenges hopefully for every skill level you're at. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and let me know if there's any combo you want me to do. Otherwise, I'm just going to take some of my own trick library and start sharing how I do that. Yeah, thank you for watching YouTube, and I'll see you soon.